Boom. And we are live with another episode of the Real Estate Growth Secrets podcast. I'm John Garuti, and I ask top real estate experts their biggest growth secrets. And today we have an exceptional guest, Dwayne Roberts. What's going on, Dwayne?
Hey, John, how are you? Thank you for inviting me to the show.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I know we've been working together and you've been dropping some awesome value in my pockets, but I wanted to get you out there and share some of your knowledge with the audience. But for all those who don't know you, let's start out with the humble brag where you get to introduce yourself and brag about your accomplishments in real estate, but in a humble manner.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, so, John, I've been in the business for 17 years. I initially got involved in the industry after going through a horrible experience buying a house. So I walked away from that experience thinking that I've got to be able to do better than this. At the time, everyone told me that the real estate industry was completely saturated, that there's no money to be made. So I actually got involved in the lending side of the house. So I started in a cubicle with a headset on like this right here, dialing for dollars. And we were doing a bunch of refinances. And that led to me understanding that there's better money to be made in the real estate side of the house. So when I got a real estate license, my very first month in the business, we closed 6 transactions. Funny thing is my license wasn't even back from the state yet. I actually had a friend of mine put it in their name and let me use their MLS key to slip doors and write up offers. One of the things that really made us different is coming from the lending background, we've always been lead centric. And one of the main reasons I decided to get involved in real estate from the loan side of things is a lot of times we would give leads or co-op leads with real estate agents, and they just weren't working the leads the way they need to be worked. I realized that. So I figured, heck, I can do this myself. So fast forward 3 years later, we opened up a real estate mortgage and title company. Things were going extremely great. And then come the crash. So there was a peanut butter and jelly times for 2 to 3 years, but real estate has always provided us a lifestyle that we've only been able to dream about. My family and I typically take 6 to 10 vacations per year. We've been extremely blessed, and now in this portion of our career, we actually teach real estate agents the 2 most important aspects they need to know about this business. And the first one is how to generate leads. And the second one is how to convert those leads. And because if they can get those 2 skill sets down, then everything else is gravy. It's just paperwork. So glad to be here and sharing knowledge that I have.
Yeah. And so let's talk about this because we were just chatting about this privately, how, you obviously your knowledge in the mortgage industry just is such a great thing for any real estate agent to know, like all these details about what mortgages they can do, what loans are available. I mean, that's such great ammunition to have in your pocket. What do you think is like best or the best way for an agent to learn these things so they can use that while they're generating those leads and trying to bring their leads through their pipeline to that eventual goal of trying to get them that home?
Yeah, good question. So I strongly agree with the statement that I'm about to make because I preach it day in and day out. A good loan officer will make or break everything. That being said, I did have an advantage because I knew the loan programs and I approached it from a loan standpoint. So oftentimes when I got someone on the phone, opposed to having to hang up the phone and call my lender or try to connect those 2, I asked for the social security number right then and right there because that was my comfort level. So I had an entire piece of the puzzle that I didn't have to bring to the table because they simply could bypass that and I could find out where they can qualify right then and right there. So here are the tips. Although you cannot pull their credit, actually, let me put an asterisk there just to let you know something. According to the law here, you don't have to be a loan officer in order to pull their credit. You can be a LOA, a loan officer's assistant, a non-licensed assistant, and you can take a loan application. You just can't talk about rates and terms. Oh. So that being said, I do have some realtors who have got permission from their loan officer to walk someone through a loan application. So that takes away that step of the process if you're interested in doing that. But if not, here's the tips that you want to know. First and foremost, please don't be a loan officer. Okay. Your transaction is to get them into a loan officer. That's it. Okay. You're going to make 1,000 mistakes if you believe that you can pre-qualify them over a conversation. I don't care if they say they have 400 credit scores. Okay. Your goal is to get them to a loan officer, because the loan officer is the one that's skilled and educated. Let me give you an example. Let's say we have Bobby here. He tells you he's got a 400 credit score. He may be exactly right. Bobby may have a 400 credit score, right? But once it gets to the loan officer finds out that Bobby's married and Susan actually has a 750 credit score, but he didn't want to put her on the loan to begin with. But Susan actually makes enough money to actually qualify for the house in her own name, but he didn't think that she did. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
Get it to a loan officer. Let the loan officer make the decision. Now, a couple questions that I like to ask, just to kind of fill the situation out to determine whether, I have a looky-loo or someone that can potentially buy, is I'll ask probing questions like, hey, are you hourly or salary? You got any large vehicle payments, big SUVs? What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to determine a debt to income ratio. If the guy says he works for $850 an hour and he's got a $600 SUV payment and it's only him, might not qualify so much. But again, I'm playing a loan officer, so the best thing that you can do is get them to a loan officer just as quick as you possibly can. And most importantly, make sure that that loan officer is going to follow up and actually call the person and pull that loan application. I have realtors that are on our system that are typically, I train to teach to send 2 people per day to your loan officer. And my loan officers that I work with are trained to contact that person right then and right there, Johnny on the spot. There's been situations where I've had students that are sending deals to loan officers and the loan officers just aren't doing their part. And that's why I said a good loan officer can make or break the entire transaction. Matter of fact, I had a girl recently, and she was getting a bunch of leads sending to loan officers, and nothing was really coming to fruition. And I asked her, I said, what do you think the kink of the armor is? And the last thing that she thought was going to be her lender. And I asked her why, and I got the same response I typically get is, we're friends, we've done business together, she's been doing this for 10 years, and so on and so on and so forth. And I told her, I said, look, you need to get an aggressive loan officer. You need a loan officer that if you have a conversation with someone at 10 o'clock at night, you can call the loan officer and say, I need to pull the app right now. Well, her response to me is my lender's not going to do that, And I said, well, you need to get another lender. She didn't like that response. About 2-3 days later, she actually sets me up a call with her lender because they weren't kind of getting the results that they felt that they should get. And I mentioned to the lender, I said, look, best practices are, you should probably pick up the phone. And she goes, well, hold on a second. I'll take an app any time of the day. And I'm like, yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be, right? So you have to have someone that's going to be on your team and it's going to play ball. And remember this, most lenders are not prospecting. They're sitting back and they're waiting for realtors to feed them, right? So if you're feeding them a minimum of 2 deals per day in order to pre-qual, then that's 10 deals for the week. That's 40 deals for the month. I promise you, I've done this long enough to know that you've got 4 to 5 deals in there. But if they're not calling those people back, you're going to cut bait now and find an aggressive loan officer. Find someone that just got into business, that has 2 kids in college, 2 SUV payments, and a second mortgage. Because that person wants to work. That's what we're looking for. Someone that's hungry on your team to get these people pre-qualified.
Awesome. I love it. So that's great advice. Let's move on to now. You said nowadays, though, you're focused on 2 things, lead generation and then the conversion, right? So let's start with lead gen. What do you think is best? Where should new agents start when it comes to lead gen today, March 12th, 2020?
That's a good question. So first and foremost, by far, social media. Social media wasn't around when I started this business, okay? I was buying leads from Zillow, Realtor.com, Home Game, you name it. I promise you, John, there's not a lead company that you can throw my way that I didn't buy a lead from. I promise you that. Some were good. Some just completely 100% ripped me off. And where my transition changed is one day I had a guy call me and he was pitching me these hot, fresh leads. Like they're all hot and fresh, right? But this guy, it's kind of hard to sell a salesman, but this guy sold me. So he had these leads that were hot and fresh, and they are $150 a piece. But I had to buy 10 of them. It should have been a clue when he asked me to wire the money to his bank account. I was young, naive. So I wired this guy $1,500. He delivered the 10 leads. And not to be discriminatory, but he literally, without exaggeration, was calling the projects in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
So my average conversation was, yeah, man, I want to buy a house, but I'm on Section 8 right now. And like, oh, man. So I found one person that I could get credit repaired. And I worked with that person for about 6 months, ended up selling them a condo, reduced my commission to make it happen, and I made $1,500. So I almost lost my rear end. But the reason I'm going to that rant there is because it was then that I decided to learn how to generate my own leads. I decided I'm never going to pay another lead company to learn how to do this. I need to figure out how to do it for myself. So right now, social media, you have to think about it in this aspect. And if you have it, this is going to be a light bulb moment for the listeners, whether you're live or whether you're watching the broadcast. Pay attention to what I'm about to say because I'm about to change your life. Facebook is a multi-million-dollar corporation. They spent hundreds of hours on developing a platform that will allow you at a moment's notice to connect to someone anywhere in the world. That did not exist years ago. Facebook is what's called a cold market, a cold audience. What do I mean by that? They have no idea who John is. But if they raise their hand off a campaign that I teach my students to use, and they say, I'm interested in buying and selling real estate in the next 12 months, and I'm not working with an agent, then at a moment's notice, you can go PM, and you have the opportunity to learn to develop that relationship that can turn into a commission check. That never existed before. See, this is what realtors think social media is about. They think that they're going to get a lead. And then when they contact that lead, the lead's like, oh my God, thank you so much for putting the ad online. I've been waiting for you to call me. I mean, I looked at your social media profile and man, you're the guy I want to use. Can you show it to my house? I'm willing to sign your buyer's agency agreement tonight. That's what they want. That's not real. Because people forget that you have to learn to date somebody before you marry them. So when they raise their hand and says, hey, I'm interested in doing real estate, that's when your job starts. And that's why 80% of real estate agents fail in this business because they haven't learned to date, because they want to go straight for the jugular. They want to go straight for that customer, and they have to learn how to warm that customer up. So social media provides you an opportunity for people to raise their hands and say, I might be interested in real estate. But then you have to learn the fine art of conversion. As a matter of fact, I'm halfway through a book that I'm writing right now called Lead Conversion Secrets. Be looking out for that. I go into a very specific approach when it comes to lead converting, and it's not that I'm just so good. It's just that I've been doing it for 17 years and I've made every mistake in the book. And once you've done something that long, you kind of get good at what you do. So I'm putting all that into a book format. And it's also something that I teach in our course with Modern Digital Agent, is I teach agents how to use the strategies that I've learned in the past and how to communicate to get buyer and sellers to open up to having a conversation, and then the best practices to use to turn that conversation into a commission check. So I call it the A2R method. The A2R method is a 4-step process that teaches agents from step 1 down to step 4 how to engage with these prospects. But the biggest challenge that I have is I never have a challenge with lead generation. Everyone I teach lead generation, that happens. My biggest challenge is people did not come from a background of sales or a customer service oriented background, and they feel that they're being pushy, and they struggle with the lead conversion. So I have students that come on board and they're just people. You give them a name and a phone number, they'll have a conversation and they're off to the races. And then I have other people that the phone literally feels like a 50-pound weight, and they don't want to pick up the phone. They don't want to call their leads, and they don't really know what to say when they do that. So one of the things that I've done in my course is I've surveyed all the people that were highly successful. And I say, hey, look, what's your claim to success? I don't know what mine is. What's your claim to success? And and I hate to admit this, but it's truth. I believe power is in truth, right? So the truth is the majority of them came from some type of sales background or a customer service oriented background. And it doesn't mean that if you didn't come from that type of background that you can't learn to do this business. Okay, you can. But what you're going to learn, going back into lead gen here, is that the average agent that retired or licensed, they do that because they burn through their warm market. They talk to their mother, brother, uncle, sister, nephew, aunt, everyone they go to church with. But once they've sold all those people, what do they do now?
Right.
Well, then they go to the broker and they're like, I need business. Well, what the heck is the broker teaching? Door knocking, chamber meetings, mailers. And those things work, but they don't work like social media. So if you can learn to do social media and learn how to engage with prospects and talk to them like you're trying to help them, that's when things change. Notice what I said, how you can help them. Because I'm telling you right now, a buyer and a seller will sniff that you're trying to get a commission check a mile away.
Right.
If they believe you're in it to actually help them and help solve their issue that they have, I promise you the money just comes.
Awesome. So, and you're talking about one thing which I feel every agent should know. If you get in this game thinking your broker is going to just hand you leads and make your business for you, like, you're out of your mind, because it's just not the way it works. At least that's how I feel. What are your thoughts on relying on your broker? Or do you agree the agent needs to be 100% in charge of them?
Yeah, you have to remember that there's a reason the guy's being a broker. Okay, he's trying to leverage your income.
Yeah,
that's why he's the broker, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I have teams. I teach agents how to build teams. But you know what? Let the broker keep the overhead. So the average broker has 10 plus years experience in this business. But social media has only been rolling hot and heavy for the last 4 to 5 years, to the extent that it is now. So they're not teaching because they don't know. So when you go to your broker, you're like, hey, what do I need to do? They're going to teach you the same stuff that they were taught because that's what worked for them. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in order to go to the next level, you have to continuously learn what's working today. That's why I love it when you said, hey, what's working on March the 12th, 2020? Because I promise you this, one of the mottos that we have at our company is that when things change, and they will, we learn, we adapt, and we overcome. Because what's working today may not necessarily be working tomorrow. So I 100% believe that you need to be 100% independent upon yourself. Do your independent research. Do not rely on your broker. Your broker is using what's called the spaghetti method. What's that? It's when you boil a bunch of noodles and you throw one against the wall and you see who sticks. That's what they do. They hire as many agents as they possibly can, hoping that somebody's going to stick around. But if you do the math, I mean, if you're on an 80-20 split and they've got 150 agents in the office and the average agent closes 3 to 4 transactions a year, 20% of a lot of transactions is a lot of money. And that's their business model. I'd much rather empower agents to actually learn how to do this darn business. And then when they get to the point where they learn how to get so many leads coming in and they learn how to convert those transactions, then they have 2 choices because the leads aren't going to stop. The methods that I teach, the leads aren't going to stop. So then you have 2 choices. Choice number 1 is let the leads go by the wayside because you're only one person, right? Or choice number 2 is learn how to develop a team. Because then if you can teach other people to do what you've done and then you become the rainmaker, and you're bringing all the leads in and you teach them to convert the way that you were taught to convert, then you could easily make $500,000 a year in this business. You just have to have a system. You have to have a process. McDonald's is McDonald's because they have systems. They don't have the best hamburgers in the world. But I promise you, the way a hamburger is made here is the same way it's made in China and New York and so on and so forth. Yep. But there's no system out there to really teach agents how to convert leads. Because the brokers just throw them against the wall and hope they make it. So you've definitely got to take your business in your own hands in order to make it successful in this.
Awesome. Well, you've dropped a lot already. So let me ask you one last question now. So you've been harping on social media. What's your biggest real estate growth secret when it comes to utilizing social media?
Approach every client like they have a minimum $5,000 price tag over their head. There's only two reasons people would ever click a link that you throw out there on social media. Reason number one, they watch way too much HGTV. They're never going to do anything. They're never going to buy a house. They're never going to sell their house. They are habitual house surfers. Those people, they do exist. The second reason, something's happening in their future that has them looking into their options. Somebody is driving an hour to work and it's starting to get to them. By the time he gets home, the kids are ready to go to bed, no family time. Somebody is living in an apartment. It's a 2-bedroom apartment. Wife or girlfriend's pregnant. They need a 3-bedroom. Somebody is living in a postage stamp of a house lot, and they want a little bit of land. They can't park their jet skis. HOA is driving them crazy, and they want to be able to put a pool in the backyard. Something. Here's the point. People just don't wake up thinking, I'm going to buy a house. There's a reason they're trying to buy a house. Yeah. So as an agent, I need you to understand this. If there's any takeaway, take this away right here. No one likes to be sold. Everyone likes to buy. So when you first contact that lead, even though you know 100% that in the back of their mind, they're not renewing that lease. In the back of their mind, as soon as spring gets here, they sell in their house. The first words out of their mouth is going to be, I'm just curious. Not interested. Why? Because we are trained as babies to say no to salespeople. How many times did your parents answer the phone and they're like, oh, no, I'm not interested. And you witnessed that over and over again. That could have been Publishers Clearinghouse. Here's the point. If you've got $500 cash in your pocket and you have every intention in the world of buying a leather coat, you know you're going to go buy it. You go to the department store, you walk in, some guy comes up to you and says, hey, welcome to Wilson's department store. Can I help you? Your natural reaction is say, I'm just looking. So how does that tie into real estate? When you call a lead and you're like, hey, I noticed you were on my website. I got your information off of Facebook. They're going to say, not interested. That being said, you can't stop there. You have to know how to push past that and find their why.
Right.
Because, we offer scripts and stuff like in our course that teaches people how to get past those whys. But once you identify what the why is, then you can push toward that why and help solve their problem. That's where I was saying that once you become a problem solver, the money, it just comes. And if you are an agent that got involved in this business to help people, which a lot of agents do, that's admirable. But in order to help people, you still have to push them. But you're pushing them in the right direction. Like if your friend was on the train tracks and a train was coming, you're going to push them out of the way, right? Well, if a buyer really wants to buy a house and they have a conversation with you, it is your moral duty and obligation to get that guy to a loan officer to find out if he can buy or not. When he doesn't call the loan officer, it's your moral duty and obligation to call him the next day. Why didn't you call John? He was waiting for your call. And to push that transaction along, because as real estate agents, the best agents are leaders. And the leaders are the ones that get the most arrows in the back. So we've got to lead. We're not order takers. This isn't CarMax. We actually have to help people and solve their needs. Use social media to identify who we should or shouldn't be nurturing now and who we can possibly close in the next 90 days. And let the numbers work themselves out and change your focus from lead gen to who can I help today solve their problem, and you'll make a lot of money.
I love it. I love it. Dwayne, this has been awesome. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, definitely. You can check us out online at www.moderndigitalagent.com. On that site, we have a demo of a couple of things that we do, and we always have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week live chat button. If you want more information about what we do, I like to have a good conversation with you. Here's what I mean by a good conversation. I want to learn what you're currently doing now. I want to learn what you're spending in advertising and marketing. And then we'll look together on what's working and what's not working. And then if I feel that I can help you, I will put a plan together and you'll walk away with that plan. If I feel that I can't help you where you're at right now, I will at least make recommendations for you so you can take that next step. Because just like closing real estate clients, I learned a long time ago, it's not about the money. When I'm coaching real estate agents, honestly, it's really not about the money. The more agents that I help where they're at right now get to the next level, then the money just takes care of itself.
Right. Awesome, Dwayne. It's been a blast. That's another episode of the Real Estate Growth Secrets podcast. We'll see you.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Enjoy. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Thanks.